Life Audio.
Hi, my name is Jeff King. I'm the president of Persecution.org and one of the world's leading experts on religious freedom. I focus on spiritual growth, religious freedom, and persecution around the globe. You're listening to Faith Under Fire. Hey, I'm Jeff King. Welcome to Faith Under Fire. At Faith Under Fire, we define, defend, and deepen your faith. For 20 years, we've been putting out newsletters at Persecution.org, or International Christian Concern. And over those 20 years, there have been any number of newsletters that I said we're going to specifically focus on the coming storm of religious persecution, that there is a storm coming of persecution. Now, in the West, it's still out there, but it's coming. Well, we deal with persecution all the time, and overseas is expected, but it's shocking when it happens here. And here's the news flash: the storm is here. It's arrived. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking to attorney Nate Kellum with First Liberty Institute. Nate has tried or defended over 500 cases of religious freedom cases here in the States. Argued before the Supreme Court successfully numerous times. It's a fascinating interview. I'm a big fan of Nate, and I think you're going to enjoy this. And we're going to specifically focus on the case of a pastor in Seattle who was arrested twice for publicly reading the Bible. And that's it. There's a little bit of context to that, but that's the deal. And how did we get there? How did we get to this point? And we're going to talk about that. We're going to look at persecution cases in the West and what's been happening. We're going to talk about ones that happened in Finland, in the UK, what's going on. It's really shocking when you pull back. And that's the important thing, is to not get caught up in the details, but to understand the trend, understand what's going on and how to frame these things in your mind. It's really important. And that's what Nate's going to help us do. So I think that's it. We're going to get started. And please enjoy and stick around, and I will close this out at the end. All right. Well, welcome to Faith Under Fire. And just got a quick interview today. This is a fascinating case. It involves Pastor Matthew Meineke, Seattle. He was doing public preaching. And he started getting heckled and attacked, and then the police intervened and they told him to go away, and he decided not to, which was his right. And then they arrested him, in fact, twice. And so it ended up in court. And today we're going to be talking to his attorney, Nate Kellum. And Nate, before I introduce you, let me just read off the summary of your career. You've been an attorney for 30 years defending religious liberty cases. You've handled over 500 cases, 40 appeals, securing several landmark decisions, including protecting religious expression in public spaces like parks and workplaces. You're the general counsel for Life Choices, and you got your JD from University of Mississippi. How did I do? Did I get it right?
Oh, you're spot on.
All right. Well, give us a real thumbnail sketch of what happened in this case.
Well, you summed it up well. Matthew Meineke is a Christian who earnestly wants to share his faith with others. He feels a real strong calling to do that. And what he likes to do is just read directly from the Bible. He figures that his commentary can only really get in the way of the gospel message. And so in doing this, he ran into some serious problems, as you alluded to, Jeff, in the city of Seattle, where he was doing this just doing nothing more than reading the Bible. It was met with severe hostility. He was physically attacked. And when the police arrived, instead of dealing with the attackers, they determined that he was the problem. His message was the problem, and they arrested him for it.
Yeah, and a little crazy, except maybe not so, because it's Seattle, and but still crazy in the United States. As we were discussing before we turned the camera on, look, I've been dealing with persecution overseas, for 30 years, and this is absolutely typical, especially places in India where there's religious freedom in the Constitution. But it really depends what's going on culturally, and the police will side with the cultural winds, and that will trump the Constitution. So we never expected to see that here, but it's just a curious thing. It's like, this is really basic. And so I asked you before the cameras, let's do it with the cameras, but how do the police not understand the First Amendment? Or I'm sure you're familiar with, like, for instance, the Carlsbad mayor, where he said, you can't pray in the name of Jesus prior to city events.
Well, I think what happened here is that the police are reading the Constitution through a cultural lens. Yeah. This is the context of the two things that were going on. Jeff, is first, it was on June 24, 2022. I don't know if that date rings a bell for you, but that was the date that the Dobbs decision came down. And so they had this huge rally going on in downtown Seattle for abortion. They didn't have a permit. They didn't seek a permit. They just took over the streets. And so you had a lot of protesters, including a lot of Antifa members, who came to this occasion. And again, all that Matthew Meineke wanted to do was share the gospel. He wasn't really planning to delve into the abortion issue. So he just turned to Scripture, and he started with the book of John, verse 1. And just started reading. However, he was treated horribly. Someone took his Bible, ripped pages out of it. He was knocked down. Some Antifa members actually picked him up, walked a block and a half, and dropped him on concrete. Matthew, to his credit, persevered. He just kept reading the Bible. And then when the police finally arrived, they did not want to really deal with the protesters. They did not really want to deal with the folks who were supporting abortion. They figured the easiest thing to do was to deal with Matthew, and that's what they did.
Yeah, unfortunately, it seems like that's oftentimes how these cases devolve, where it's kind of, and I don't know if you'd say it's the path of least resistance or laziness, but it's like you said, I'm sure the police probably understand the First Amendment rights, but they're not thinking this is going to go to court and turn into a bigger deal. They just want to, quickly deal with the problem. And they're used to people, they bark orders, and I guess they're used to people obeying. Is that a fair summary?
I think so, and I think what they presumed is that if they're going to run into any issues with their bosses or with folks in the media or otherwise, they felt it would probably be the other side. They're the ones who complained about how they were treating them. But really, the reality of it is that the only person who was arrested was Matthew Meineke, and he was really the only person there who wasn't doing anything illegal.
Yeah, definitely. You've got your finger to the wind. You deal with constitutional cases all the time. Just lay out a couple bullet points. What are the biggest challenges we're going to be facing going forward legally in terms of religious freedom?
Well, I think this is emblematic of things that we can expect, Jeff. You're mentioning how you've seen a lot of persecution in other countries, and I think it's going to become more and more prominent here in the United States. I think there was a long period of time where we really had a very privileged position as Christians, that we were not persecuted for the most part here. But I think that time has passed because really we're living in a culture that really doesn't favor Christianity. The tenets of Christianity seem to go against the grain of a lot of the cultural issues. And so because of that, I think we're easy to target, and we're easy to be isolated and censored. And so I think that's an issue. Now, it popped up here with Mr. Meineke, who was he was really somewhat stretching his neck out because he was trying to go out in public. But I think where you also find it, Jeff, is individuals who really not necessarily so. They just want to go to work, and they want to be able to abide by their Christian beliefs and be able to run their business according to their Christian beliefs without government interference. Well, I think that they'll run into some issues too. Because once this type of speech was honored, where the First Amendment was respected, this is coming to an end.
Yeah, and any thoughts, any insight into like the very low-level persecution, but kind of like the disappearing of Christians? You take them out of the public square. Again, this is what they do overseas. We have we have religious freedom, just don't bring it in the public square. And you're seeing those who control social media or Amazon or different groups like that. It's very clear if you're in Christian media that you are, that you're being silenced, the volume's being turned down, you're being hard, they make it hard to find you. Is there anything brewing in terms of legal challenges going forward, this type of thing?
In various realms, so there are, Jeff, where we see it with public speech, like with Mr. Meineke, but also where a real battlefield is in the school system. Yeah, where there's a lot of indoctrination going on, where they try to keep parents out of the loop, and so that's just another area where it basically, individuals in power are making the determination that, well, Christians just really don't know. They're almost taking like a moral stand here, where they're thinking, well, we just can't really respect that opinion because it is so morally repugnant, and I think that's what we're facing here. And so I think we're just going to see much more censorship. With individuals like yourself, Jeff, and I think you really hit on it, where it really does start with Christians not advancing their views in the public square. And so we, as of this day, Jeff, we still have a constitutional rights that are largely recognized in the courts. So that when I go before a judge, and just like I did in this case, where although the police ignored the First Amendment, the judge did not.
Yes.
And so we still have that ability, so that we can take our complaints to the court and say, hey, this is a First Amendment violation. And so we need to be willing to get out of the pews and be able to share our beliefs in the public square while we still have that right to do so.
Fantastic. And, it's interesting. You mentioned the battleground of the schools. By the way, I'm sure you're familiar with the case in Montgomery County, Maryland, where the schools, there was the reading material for the kindergartners through fifth grade. And Montgomery County said, no, we're not taking the LGBTQ curriculum out of the reading cycle for these kids. At first, they said, yes, we need to take that out. And then they kind of get their bristles up and they said, nope, we're not doing it. And so just one example, there's lots of them, but I happen to live in Montgomery County, so I'm like, oh my gosh, it is brewing.
I can share another one with you, Jeff. There's a very similar situation in San Diego area in California, where is very similar, where there's a LGBTQ push there, particularly with transgenderism. Yeah. And like there's this book called My Shadow is Pink, which is nothing but pushing an agenda that supports transgenderism. Yeah. And it's really more for small kids, and the way it's done is through graphics, and where essentially you had a kid who was struggling with their gender, and the father at first was reticent, but then as the story went, and the father came around and decided that he was going to support what was previously a son and now his daughter. And so that's the kind of thing that they want to push in the public schools. So they're doing this in San Diego. And it was even particularly egregious here, Jeff, because what they did is they exposed some fifth graders to it. But then they said, okay, guys, this is what you need to do as part of this mentorship program that they had in school. We want you to share it with kindergartners. So they had them share this book with kindergartners and do this activity where they said, hey, let me help you draw your shadow, with the analogy being, well, pink is female, and then blue is male. And so that's what they were doing in this, and all without parental knowledge. And that was really kind of the whole idea, because they just figured that the parents would just obstruct it, and rightly so.
Yeah, maddening, right? And Nate, final comment. One of the things I'm continually pushing for, people wonder what they can do. And so first of all, if we're going to leave politics to non-Christians, we're going to get kind of what we deserve. So I always tell people, get out there, run for dog catcher, get out there, get to the school board meeting, stand up, speak up. But I'm just kind of I just bang the drum on this because half of this is to expose and to confront and to name and shame. But I'll leave the last word to you on that.
Well, Jeff, I don't think there's any doubt that that's what we need to do. It's really, we're instructed to be salt and light. And if we just stay in our comfort zones in our churches, we're not really doing that. We have to go outside the church walls and make a difference for Jesus Christ. And so that's what Matthew Meineke was doing, trying to read Scripture. And I think, running for dog catcher and then being able to apply what you know as a Christian in that sphere. That's what we need to do. We need to be active, and I believe we're called to do that.
Well, Nate, God bless you. Thank you. On behalf of just millions of Christians are affected by cases like this, and so I just want to say thank you for what you've done and the way you've directed your career, and really tried to honor God with your skills and your mind and your career. And just hats off to you.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right. God bless. Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Nate was extremely gracious with his time, and we will be talking to him again. There's these cases are coming up repeatedly. Now, the good news is that the Supreme Court has been correcting some of the really egregious past decisions that were really poor decisions constitutionally, and so those have been, a lot of them gotten fixed. But these cases aren't going to stop coming. And we're going to watch. Like I said, we define, we defend, and we deepen your faith. So we're going to watch this. Stay tuned, and we will definitely cover more. But again, thanks to Nate and First Liberty Institute for the wonderful work they are doing. And we will see you next week. God bless you.
Life Audio.